It's the holiday season, and something in my heart told me that I should probably revisit a topic that we have talked about before, but in a different context. I want to talk about customer service. I want to talk about accommodations. I want to talk about business owners. I'm going to also talk about customers. It's the holiday season. There is no better time to really zone in on customer service versus accommodations. Let's get into it. Hello, good afternoon. This is Gwendolyn, GR Houston Jack. We are the career coach, digital marketer, and all things fabulous at HouJack Digital Marketing Solutions. And you are tuning into HouJack DMS Live Learning. Welcome. Now, we are streaming to Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, again, we would love it if you would like, share, and subscribe. And believe it or not, we actually have really great information here. So why not share with like your friends and stuff? Because it's an each one, teach one community. You know what I'm saying? And the more people have these conversations and the more good information we share, we might just change the world a little bit. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about customer service versus accommodations. Accommodations. Okay, so there's always something that inspires me beyond it being the holiday season, because that in itself is an inspiration. And typically during the holiday season, we begin to see the worst of customers, the worst in behavior. And then also, I'm going to go out on a limb and say imagination from consumers about what should be, right? And this topic is truly for everyone because we are all consumers. We are all purchasers of a service or product at some time or another. So why not reevaluate what we're using as our base and get back to some basics? But more importantly, this was also inspired by the the experience of Keith Lee in the Atlanta restaurant area. And it's more of the comments. So it amazes me. It amazes me how people don't really know how to identify an accommodation versus customer service. And then they also don't recognize in certain atmospheres, certain environments, where what they're asking for is so beyond. It's not even on the scale, right? So I'm going to talk about that. Talk about it from a business perspective as well as a consumer perspective. So this is another 3-part series. We'll start with accommodations and customer service first. We're going to talk about the job, the role of the consumer. And then we'll talk about the job as the business owner. Everybody has a job. Everybody has a role to play, right? Everybody has it. How you choose to play it, that's always your choice. When we talk about what is feasible versus what people want, yeah, that's that conversation, right? So let us get into it. Customer service versus accommodations. Goodness and all things gracious. All things. Okay. So what are we going to discuss today? We are going to look at a couple of topics. Quick highlights. We want to look at, first of all, what is customer service? What is that? What is customer service? just going over the basics of it, right? We're going to go over the basics. We're going to also talk about identifying an accommodation. Yeah, question mark there, because do you know? People really know. Every blue moon, a business will do what they believe is right. But sometimes we have situations where, as consumers, we mistake that accommodation for customer service. We really shouldn't do it. And I hate to say should, because we shouldn't be shitting on people. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and say we really shouldn't do it. So, yeah. All right. And then lastly, reality check. Let's talk about those expectations, because again, sometimes believe, what we believe should be everyday basic customer service, it's just not feasible. It is no way in anybody's world feasible. And we really got to talk about, like, what's realistic? Like, what are the expectations and what is just somebody's dream? So let's go there. Customer service, what is it? Okay, so in layman terms, in very basic terms, customer service is the experience you supporting a potential customer before, during, and after they have purchased a service or item from you. Now, you say before. Yes, before. Before we even walk in the door, we are interacting with the business. And that should probably be a sidebar by itself, right? People think someone has to walk into their doors, someone has to be in their space before they are serviced. And that is wrong. Service begins from your website, your social media page, your marketing, the phone call, driving by your business, whatever. That's when it starts. The first moment that potential customer recognizes you, right? Because a lot of times we're just driving. People are driving, walking. We don't see what's in front of us. But when they notice you, when they acknowledge you, that's when it starts. So if someone asks a question on, say, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, and it goes without answering for days, yeah, that could be in the negative. If someone leaves a comment on your Google business profile, provided you have one, and nothing happens there, right? Those are interactions. All of those interactions, that's service. That's before they walk in the door, before they make a purchase. Because if they have a hard time talking to you before they make a purchase, imagine what happens when they are ready to interact with you. I couldn't get help to even get started. And now that I'm here, I still can't get help. What happens if I now decide to purchase something? Can I get help then? Now, I'm going to tell you, my background in retail, 25 years, 25 and some change. But I recognize I'm not the average consumer. So I get that. But I don't walk into places with unrealistic expectations of service. There are some basics. Acknowledging your customer, that's basic, okay? That's basic. That's just being respectful of someone walking into your establishment. The same way that, well, at least in my house, if you walk into someone's home, it's hello, good evening, good afternoon. That's basic. Basic acknowledgement. That in my book is not amazing service. Just being acknowledged, that's a basic. That's like getting up and brushing your teeth, right? Putting on clothes. You should, and I know we shouldn't say it, you should be doing that. You should acknowledge people in your building. Even if you can't say hello in the moment, giving them an eye nod and a smile, that's acknowledgement, because they'll smile back. That's a basic. That's not even really starting with amazing service. That's a basic, right? Acknowledging, saying thank you for coming in. Even if they don't buy anything, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for calling us today. Thank you for your email. Thank you for reaching out, right? Those are basics. So before, during, and after, right? What else do we put in the bucket of customer service? Servicing someone quickly, effectively, efficiently, answering all questions, being proactive when it comes to possible customer concerns or issues, I was at a CVS just last week. I went in for a flu shot, made an appointment online. So I made it in advance. I get to CVS and the young ladies are telling me they can't even take insurance cards. It's a system-wide issue. Do you have insurance? Well, yeah, I got insurance. I did all that online. And then they just kind of stared at me. Now, I'm getting agitated. I'm going to tell you right now, I get agitated because you're asking me ridiculous questions, in my opinion, because you haven't told me there's a system-wide issue yet. And then you're just staring at me. And I'm thinking, I have other things to do today. So what bothers me is that when you have a system-wide issue across the board, but there's no plan in place, zero plan. If you knew you had this issue before I got here, which I don't know, feels like they did, why didn't we get on the horn, do an email, do a text, something? Because they have a text, they have a phone number to say, hey, we have issues today. We may need to postpone your appointment, reschedule your appointment, versus I'm here now and you're just staring at me. Be proactive. If you know you have something going down and things aren't going to work out, tell your customer before they waste their time, gas, and money coming to your establishment. Let them know. Now, sometimes it can happen in the moment. I've been there where things happen in the moment. That's different, because in that moment, I am working quickly to figure out what to do to resolve this issue. But if you can get ahead of something, get ahead of it. Like, don't pretend like, oh my God, it'll just work itself out. Get ahead of it. Take charge, right? So proactively resolving issues. And when we talk about resolving issues, they should be, and I know I'm using a lot of shoulds today. Oh my goodness, I should have a should jaw. But they should be resolved with empathy and care, right? Consider what's going on. Consider what might be happening. Consider how it impacts your customer. Consider all those things, right? Resolve the issues. Something else that is seen as customer service is supporting a social cause that speaks to your customer. Now, people get a little funny about this. They're like, we really shouldn't be getting into things because it's a business, an entity. It is an entity, okay? It's an entity. It has no sex, no gender, no feelings. However, the people in the business represent the business. And businesses, these entities, can stand for something. They can stand for various causes. My photography business, I'm about the food bank. I'm about alleviating hunger. Food insecurity speaks to my heart. And for some of my customers, it speaks to their heart as well. Other people, it could be a reading program. It could be health issues. It could be a variety of things. It could be just being active in the community. It could be donating to various charities. But that's another level of customer service that businesses can think about. Again, just saying hello and goodbye and thank you, that's basic. That's just being respectful. So let us not get there. But can we now talk about identifying an accommodation? Because this is where it gets wonky. So the story is, the report is that Keith Lee, TikToker, what have you, who is traveling and doing food critics, not food critics, I'll say restaurant reviews. Let me make sure we're clear there. Restaurant reviews, but like a food critic, right? He's traveling and he came upon, I want to say it was a Jamaican restaurant, and he called late in the day when they were about to close, I believe. And the business owner, the restaurant owner, decided to stay open and prepare his meal for him and whoever he was buying this meal for. Right? It's a beautiful thing. I think it's gorgeous. It's also an accommodation. Okay. What typically happens when a business owner business decides to accommodate a customer and not tell them, because most accommodations, we just do it. We don't say, now, this is a one-time accommodation. Sometimes you have to. Again, in my time being in retail, there have been more than a handful of times I have had to tell somebody, this is a one-time accommodation. There's a reason for that. I'll get back to that. Typically, though, when we do something, we just do it. We don't have to have pomp and circumstance. We don't have to shout it out. The whole world does not need to know that we are now accommodating you. Okay? We just do it. And in those moments that we don't call out the accommodation, the customer sometimes can assume this is regular service. It is not. It's accommodation. It's accommodation. Now, with the Keith Lee incident, that accommodation where she stayed open a whole hour later to prepare this fresh meal, she didn't have to, because she could have said, oh, we are 5 minutes from closing, 10 minutes from closing, whatever it is. Perhaps she has her own thing going on that she can't stay late. It could be a variety of things why she can't stay late and prepare this meal. That happens. She's a business owner. It happens to all of us. I have had it where I have to shut down the business and head on down to Houston. It happens. It's what it is. Or maybe you lose power. The store has to close. There's no power. Right? Things happen. But in her case, she stayed open late, like a whole hour, made the meal. He's impressed. But he matched her accommodation by matching her entire day of sales. Okay? So, like energy. She didn't ask for it. She just asked for his regular bill. He decided to match her accommodation and give her everything she made in terms of sales for the day. Now, that is clearly an extreme in this case, because with most accommodations, customers just take the accommodation and go about their business. They may very well write a review that is favorable. They may tell 5 friends how awesome this business is because of this accommodation and how easy they made things for them. That can definitely happen. But what also happens, here's the second part, is that people tend to take accommodations as everyday customer service. It is not. There were a number of comments about that's great service and that's what you guys should do. And you should, okay, there is nothing written that a business owner or a business has to stay open till the break of dawn to serve you. No, there are business hours. There are opening hours. There are closing hours. There are holidays. There are days off. Every business has its standard operating procedures, SOPs. We open at 9 o'clock. We close at 8 o'clock. People who work here, depending on how many hours, get a 30-minute break or they get an hour break. And that's based on state law. Okay? Standard operating procedures. Customer comes in, customer pays for product, customer leaves with said product. They want to make a return. If they have a receipt, they are refunded the way they paid. No receipt, they may need an ID. They may get a store credit for the lowest price in the last 90 days. Every business has standard operating procedures. That's the basis, the foundation of their customer service. SOPs. So when someone goes outside the SOPs, you as a consumer should not confuse that with customer service. It's an accommodation. And they don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell you. We had people who would lose the lid or break a lid or drop their trash can in the parking lot. And I recall a guy came in with this awful story of how we sold him this clearly damaged trash can at full price. Never. We would never. Because our SOPs were that if we saw a damaged item, we could in that moment discount it like 20% because we don't want it back. It's a discount. So the idea of us selling this clearly damaged item for full price, insane. But he comes in anyway, prepared to fight. He's got this war story. This happened, you guys cheated me and da-da-da-da. And I was like, there's just no way. There's just no way. Now, it did escalate because he just didn't tell us what really happened. So the wife comes in with her war paint on. She's ready. Our manager shows up. She's like, did you drop it in the parking lot? I mean, we just want to know because it's just, this couldn't have happened here. The husband finally says, yes, we put it in their car. We dropped it. Fine, we'll just get you a new one. What? Wait, what? Yeah, just get a new one because accidents happen. It could be that easy, right? Because it could be that easy. It doesn't have to be hard. Those are accommodations. Because typically in most places, if you drop and break it, you just got a broken something now, right? But a business can say, you know what, accidents happen. Go get a new one. It's cool. We'll work this out. Somebody else will get this damaged trash can at a discount, right? Those are accommodations. What should not be expected is that I can buy something, use it, damage it, and then come back and say, this was damaged. I should get a new one. No, you should buy a new one. That's way beyond what anyone would say is realistic in expectations. So if someone decides to give you the sale price from 2 weeks ago, if they decide to give you a gift card for whatever the case may be, if they make any accommodation, if they do anything outside their standard operating procedures, that is an accommodation. And it should not be confused for customer service because it is not. So here's that reality check. We got to check it. Some of us as consumers have expectations that are not feasible, nor are they realistic. I have always told customers, you are fine to feel the way you feel. It's not feasible. I want to be able to come in here and order this today and get it delivered today and get it installed today during a winter storm or nor'easter. Yeah, that's not going to happen. You are fine to have your expectations. Every single person has their own expectations for service. I have my own. I also know what's not feasible and what's not realistic. And I don't ask for those things. I don't expect those things. I do expect the basics. And I do expect a certain level of service depending on where I'm shopping. Other than that, the rest of it, it's just not realistic. So some of the comments that I read on some of these social media platforms regarding Keith Lee and restaurants and service, there are clearly some people who have unrealistic expectations. And I don't know if they're consumers or business owners or those who work in a service industry, like the hotel, restaurant, store, doctor's office. Those are all service related. I don't know if they work in those places, but it's clear that we have lost touch with reality. What should be expected? It should not be expected that someone is going to stay until the break of dawn to serve you. That is a no. Unless they're like Waffle House, open 24 hours a day. Great. That's fine. That's fine. I know for us, past tense, we would open early, we would close 5 minutes late because we understand that people's clocks are kind of different, right? It's an accommodation, but for us, it's also an SOP. We always open 5 minutes early. We always close 5 minutes late. But everybody has their idea of what they expect. Some of the comments of expecting this, I'm going to say top-notch, top-tier service, when they themselves don't value the product or the service being delivered or offered, that also is not realistic. Let me say it real quick. Everybody is not a business's customer. We're going to talk about that in 2 weeks. Just because you have the money doesn't mean that that business wants it. All money isn't good money. And everybody who walks in is not that business's customer. They have a target audience. The marketing, the product, the visual merchandising is all geared towards communicating with that target audience. They have an avatar. And you may be in the aspirational section of that avatar, but you are not the target audience. Now, this isn't to say that because you have the money, you should be treated respectfully. Those, again, are basics. But for you to assume as a consumer that they're going to jump through hoops for someone who is not their customer, that's not realistic. I would always tell my team in the past that when you have a customer who is putting you through the ringer, asking, demanding really outrageous things, it's not your customer. I don't care if they have $30,000. It's not worth the headache because they're going to be a one and done. You know, people who are on that super price conscious side, they look for all the deals. Even at the dollar store, they're looking for a deal. They're not loyal to anyone but themselves and their pocketbook. So even for the dollar store, that's not their customer. They don't want that customer. And I know it sounds harsh, like, what do you mean you don't want? You can have money. It doesn't mean you're the target audience. So when you go to certain places and you're like, I don't understand, I was looking for this, but you're not who they're trying to talk to. Which is not the same to say being racially profiled or stereotyped. We're not saying that. There are people who are your people, and then there are folks who are not your people, right? Think about the social causes. If you're not a person who supports PETA and you love rocking the fur, then you probably don't want to be in a place that is against that kind of thing. I mean, so you have the money to buy XYZ, but you're not their target audience, right? Like, you're not. But when we talk about service, you know, the energies have to match. And so for some consumers, they want to walk into a place, be treated like royalty, but they do not value the product or the service being offered. And therefore, they don't get their expectations of service. One, they're not realistic. And two, you're not the person they want to work with. What can I tell you? I will say this as I close it out, because, you know, I'm a solopreneur. I have a photography business as well as a few others. Every person who wants to take a picture is not my customer, because I don't take pictures. It's not what I do. I do other things, but taking a picture is not what I do. So have I had people who have called and said, I really want to hire a Black photographer? You could. Put your money down, call today. If you were the person who appreciates what I do, that would not be the sticking point, right? So think about this as you go into your week. Think about, who are you as a customer and what are your expectations, right? Think about that. Because again, a lot of us believe that we have money and then that makes me the customer for XYZ company. And those are lies that we tell ourselves. That's not the truth. But we will dig into the role of the consumer. We will dig into that role. And we're going to talk about the role of the business owner as well. We'll get into that also. But keep this in mind. One, basic customer service. Just be respectful. Because I'm going to respect you when you call me. I'm going to give you my everyday typical experience. Yes. If you decide that you want to do You ask for an accommodation, I may say, not what I do, or I can say, you know what? For you, I'm going to do it. For whatever reason, I'm going to do that. That's an accommodation. Do not mistake that for everyday customer service. But lastly, check it. Check what you're asking for. If you were not trying to truly pay for the service or the product being offered from a business, but you want sun, moon, and stars, you should probably check that. Check that behavior. Check it. Check what you deem as customer service. Because when I say energies match, if I say good morning, good afternoon, how are you? I am looking for the same, right? And we're going to talk about some of the consumers who go into someone's establishment, takes the shirts, throws them around, puts things on the floor, leaves asparagus down the soda aisle. We're going to talk about those people, right? Yeah, because you can look at a t-shirt, you can look at a sweater and not toss the other 8 to the floor. Just saying. Seen that a time or two. But we'll leave that for 2 weeks. Until then, like, share, subscribe. Enjoy your day.